Trip to Alcatraz, cell block D number 11, reserved for Laura. My name is Laura, and I'm 18 years old. I've never had a spiritual experience until I visited Alcatraz for the first time 2 days ago. It was April 13th, 2013. I was excited because I heard it was haunted and was looking to have an experience. Little did I know, the haunt would come back with me. I haven't stopped thinking about the odd experience I had for days now. When I first got to the island, I automatically felt a darkness about it. I knew there was something there. When I first walked in the main building, they gave me a little radio that was my personal tour guide. I like to take my headphones off and walk in the silence. There was a peace about it, but still very creepy. The whole tour I felt very heavy and an intense feeling of overwhelming sadness. I didn't know what to think about it. I just tried to ignore it. When I got to cell block D, the solitary confinement block, nicknamed the Hole, there were a couple cells the tour allowed you to walk in. I walked in cell 11, solitary confinement cell. I noticed there was a little note on the top right of the cell. As I walked up to the note and looked closely, I read, "Reserved for Laura." That was my name. I immediately felt a chill up my back. I laughed it off and got my mom and told her about it. She didn't believe me and she got up to sign and took a picture. The picture said "Reserved for Liam." The thing is, in the picture, it was completely different handwriting than when I read it. And I have really good eyes. I know my own name and I read my own name. I haven't stopped thinking about it since. I did a little research on Liam and found no information. The only information I found on Liam in the prison was an actor who played in the movie Alcatraz who was a little boy. I found a video of a paranormal investigator who went inside the cell and she was a psychic who picked up an inmate who was crazy for Satan. She went on and on about how he was a world master manipulator and did all sorts of rituals within the cell block. I have been praying for days after that experience. I 100% know for a fact that that place is haunted. Go see for yourself. The next visit to Alcatraz, San Francisco, go into the solitary confinement block into 11 and read the note on the top right upper corner. Maybe you'll see your name. Creepy. I think that'll be my last trip to Alcatraz. Please, if anyone else has had the same experience, please let me know. Babyland, a lawn full of memories. In 1990, our school decided to give their students a field trip. It would be an educational experience, as one teacher put it. All the first and second graders were going to Babyland. When I heard about the opportunity going to Babyland, I was so excited. My mother was pregnant at the time, and I thought Babyland would teach me so much. Heck, I could become the perfect older brother for my new brother or sister. It's important to note that my English is not my primary language, and neither of my parents spoke or read English. As a first grader, I basically translated the best to my knowledge the field trip to my parents. I really emphasized on the location, Babyland. Although there were additional words to the location's name, I had no idea what it meant and left it out of the translation. My parents agreed and allowed me to go on this trip. I've never been so happy. On the day of, I brought all the required equipment, which are crayons, chalk, or colored pencils, several sheets of blank art paper, and a sheet to sit down on. I remember imagining the picnic we would have and the babies that would sit at my picnic area. All the art skills I could show to these babies, I was extremely happy and anxiously waiting for the school trip. When we got to school, I was surprised at how many students decided not to show up or did not get permission to go to Babyland. I think there were only 40 students going out of the 60. I felt bad for them and devoted myself to draw all the cute babies I would be seeing, and showing to all the unfortunate students who would be missing out. I had a goal now, and nothing was going to stop me. When we finally got to Babyland, it was not what I imagined at all. All I saw were green grass everywhere. Some of the sprinklers were on, and there were all kinds of stone blocks that populated much of the area. They were all organized neatly and formed perfect rows and columns. How strange, I thought to myself. I started to look around for the balloons and crying babies, but none were seen. Where were the mommies and daddies? Where were the cute babies that inhabited Babyland? The bus stopped and we got out. I expected a clown or a funny person to come and greet us, but instead we got two adults who wore dark suits. They spoke in a foreign language to us, although I'm pretty sure it was in English, and I was just not giving them any attention. I kept on looking around for the babies that inhabited this fun place, but still, no sight. It was all grass, stone art, and statues everywhere I looked. How boring. Our first assignment was to start tracing our art paper against the rectangular stone piece. The instructors demonstrated, then we followed. I became bored really fast and started to wander off away from the crowd. Heck, students everywhere were running around chasing each other, and most of all, it seemed no one was really interested in sketching stone art. I really wanted to draw the cute babies and show it to the students who did not make the trip. I was disappointed. I lay out on my picnic sheet and sat on it, looking around for a good stone to sketch. They were all so old and ugly. I didn't want to sketch any of them. As I started to doze off into sleep, I saw a little boy sketching away. He seemed really interested and ran from stone to stone, sketching everything in sight. Wow, he made it look really fun. I ran to him and asked what he was doing. He ignored me. I just started to sketch the stones he sketched, but he kept on running to the next one. I told him to slow down and wait for me, but he kept on running further away. Ultimately, I had to stop sketching just to catch up to him. He disappeared behind a tall statue, and I kept on looking for him. After 10 minutes or so, I gave up trying to find him and decided to sketch the writing on the statue. After I finished, I noticed someone looking at me. I looked around, but no one was around. I can still see some of the students and teachers, but they were really far from where I was. "Hey, up here!" someone called. I looked up and saw that little boy. He was sitting on top of the statue. "Wow, how'd you get up there?" I started to look around to see how I can climb up and join him, but there was no way up. "Over here, behind you," he called out. I looked, and he was standing right behind me. It scared me, and I jumped back. "How'd you do that?" I questioned him. He only giggled and ran away. "What's your name?" I called to him. "Robert, but you can call me Robbie," he called back while disappearing behind a stone head. I suddenly felt strange and dumbfounded. Something about Robert was off. I couldn't pinpoint as to exactly what was off, but I knew it was off. Just then, one of the teachers spotted me and ordered I go back and join the group. As I made my way back, I suddenly realized what was off about Robert. He spoke to me all right, but never once did he open his mouth. And his skin was extremely pale compared to anyone I've ever known. Not only that, his clothes seemed out of place, like he was wearing a one-piece dress or something. Why would he wear that when it's so cold out here? I started to get freaked out and ran towards the teacher. The teacher asked why I ran so far from the group, and I told her I was looking for all the fun places and babies. She realized I was confused about the name Babyland and questioned me if my parents had told me anything prior to coming on this trip. I told them I was the one who translated Babyland to them. She looked pale. She told me exactly what Babyland was. and I was very disappointed and scared at the same time. It turns out, Babyland is a cemetery for infants and children. The full name read, Babyland at Pylon Memorial Park. My translation to my parents were, Babyland at a park, a big lawn full of memories. Our assignment was stone rubbing, basically sketching stone heads of the deceased. I freaked out, realizing I had been running on top of dead people's graves and that I had actually sketched a gravestone. I looked at what I had sketched, and it read, Robert E. Smith, our beloved son. You're in God's arms now. 1950 to 1956. Freaky fishing trip. A couple weeks ago, me, my cousin, his friend, went out in our kayaks for a day of fishing and relaxing. It is early spring, so it was our first time out this year. Being something we did, my cousin and I, not his friend, it was his first time out, almost weekly the last couple years when the weather was nice. The pond we went out is called Great Island Pond, aptly named for the 2-acre or so island that is located directly in the middle. On this island is an abandoned hunting lodge. From what locals have told me, it was being used up until sometime in the 1970s. There are all new housing developments and neighborhoods in the area, but at the time this was a really remote place. My cousin and I often stopped in our kayaks and walked through the house at some point during each kayak trip we would make. It is a pretty large house, 3 floors with a wraparound deck on the 2nd floor, which has a beautiful view of the pond and woods. Having been in there many times, we knew how everything inside the house was set up. So, getting back to the story, we got out of our kayaks and we explained the house and its layout, and to where to step and where not to step to our guest and first-time kayaker. After we were through, we made our way up to the stairs and into the kitchen, checking out the old well pumps and retro refrigerator. Not 10 seconds into entering the house, we hear a loud walking or running sound upstairs, and we all stopped and listened. To me, it sounded like a person walking or a large animal, because it was fairly loud and there was no way a squirrel or a raccoon waited enough to make those loud steps. We were a little freaked out, being 320-somethings. We shrugged it off and acted like we were not worried. Next thing we did was cut through the parlor to get out to the front deck and show our buddy the great view outside. While walking through the room, my cousin and I stopped and looked at each other. He asked me exactly what I was just about to ask him, which was, why is the door to the upstairs closed? The door had never been closed during any previous visits to the house, and it is something that we both noticed immediately. There is no wind in the house because all the doors to get in are always closed. Anyways, we continued on to the porch and hung out there for a few minutes, taking some pictures and enjoying the view. We walked back inside to check out the rest of the house, and as we're getting back across to the parlor, the door that was closed that leads to the upstairs flings open hard enough to leave a dent in the wall. Needless to say, the 3 of us ran out of the house back to the front yard. We were all visibly shaken up and were trying to figure out how that could have possibly happened. There was no wind that day, all doors were closed, and the door that opened was clicked shut all the way when we first saw it. After 5 minutes of deciding if we should go back in, we did exactly that. We went upstairs and could not find a thing, not even a scared animal. We were totally dumbfounded. Needless to say, it was a very interesting and confusing pit stop during our mostly relaxing day. One other thing that happened to me recently was I was laying on my back in bed, trying to fall asleep to no avail. For some reason, I felt the need to open my eyes, which had never happened that I can remember, and I saw this misty pattern moving around on my ceiling. It was black, but it had some colors on it. It was moving around in one general area, directly above me. I had this weird feeling in my body as well. I thought maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. So I woke up my girlfriend, who was next to me, and asked her if she could see it. She said she couldn't, but I was looking right at it. I closed my eyes and waited a few more minutes and opened them again, only to see the same thing. Eventually, I just fell asleep and haven't brought it up until now. Do you have any ideas what this could be? Am I just going crazy? I really don't feel like I am, though.